out.
Lapped out.
Lapped out.
Lapped out.
Lapped out.
Should be a buzzword. Lapped out.
F350.
Free fitted.
Buzzword kind of like 430 gears.
That's
God, there we go.
or Brake Clean Mafia.
Brake Clean Mafia, I like that one.
They started that all on their own. I didn't even come up
Brake
with
Clean
that.
Mafia.
Yeah, they've been telling me about it for a long time, and then I was doing that Super Duty service that was like $1,400 worth of service, and they're like, "Oh, you're not like Ray. You don't just spray brake clean everywhere." And I was like, I have my moments when I'm,
I have my moment.
but no, for the most part, I'm not like Ray. You can't compare us. Ray's his own person, and
Dude, they send me brake clean just so I can spray it. I got like 3 cases on my shelf. Just I haven't even opened.
That's awesome.
Opened them
You
yet.
need a brake clean sponsorship.
yeah,
Right?
No, I don't want any. No, because then I'm beholden to somebody to do what they want.
Spray brake
Yeah.
cleaner? Wait.
Spray it.
Yeah, but
What
I want to
is
spray
going
whatever
on,
brake
everybody?
cleaner.
Maybe use, I'll spray it.
I'd rather spray a viewer brake cleaner. I don't want to spray, O'Reilly's brake cleaner all the time. That'll get old. There's no
I
variety.
mean, I got to mix it up. You got to mix it up. Whether you're using the Sure Shot or the little, I don't know how many ounce can of them things.
12, 16, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Both at the same time.
What up, BP? What up, everybody? Chris, everybody, guys, Jeff Porter, Bill Crowdy, lurking in the background, doing a little stretch. What is going on? We're here. We're back. FBM. We got Sleepy DS. We're going to see if he can last to the end, if he's got the stamina to hang out with the group, because he failed miserably last week. But that's done and gone. Zeekster, what up? What up, Diesel peeps? Yep. We're going to go over the shorts we had this week because there's some good info, especially for the steel body boys. The TCM, the EVAP core that I'm doing right now. It really sucks that there is not a pollen filter on those. Ford Bearded Ford Tech, he knows he's got a whole fleet of these things, and he's going to have to be, mindful of that as well. Which, by the way, he's going to be talking about a shuttering.
Shuttering.
Yeah. Yeah, Diesel Tech Chris just responded back to me. What's he say?
are you going to cover that issue with that power supply to that boop?
That's funny. What'd you say?
Are you going to cover that issue that you guys were talking about on that boot, that break on off switch, that wire that's in the cab chassis that's snapping, the red and white wire?
Oh yeah. That's a really good one too. The brake interlock. Both myself, and if you guys don't know who Diesel Tech Chris is, if you guys follow him on TikTok, he's got quite a spread of diesel related stuff, and one that he had just posted not too long ago. In fact, I think it was yesterday or the day before, talking about why we can't get our trucks out of park sometimes. And we all know that when we hit the brake, the shift interlock has to release, and we can pull that sucker down out of park and into gear. Well, that was not happening both on his vehicle and a vehicle I had. And what we found wasn't too hard to locate. Getting to that point may have been hard for some guys, but if you pull up your sill plate on the driver's side, you're going to see that wiring trough, and you guys might see water in there. Don't be alarmed, because, well, there's water in there. Either you have a water leak or you're bringing the water in. I usually see it when it's during the winter months. But anyway, there's wires that cross over directly underneath the driver's seat. And as it makes that bend in the trough, the wire that's against the plastic kind of just chafes. And unfortunately, that's the brake shift interlock circuit. Was on his truck, was on my truck. My coworkers had one. He, Diesel Tech Chris, he said he's had a couple of them, and he had made that TikTok to kind of highlight why these are not being able to being shipped out of park. So notes itself, I don't know if Ford Boss has had one yet.
I
But
get them on the F-150s and the Super Duties where those guys will, not like you guys have experienced the actual failure part. I haven't experienced that part yet, but what I get on that wire is it's an easy access wire for these guys with these fleets that want to run GPSs to figure out where their guys are at all times. And where that wire runs down, that red and white wire, and it crosses over, and then it comes back to the front towards the BCM, they will tap into that wire and they'll run a power source and tuck away their GPS up in the
okay.
side of the vehicle, and it will pull the voltage down on that circuit, and the GPS will work fine. But whenever you go to hit the brake, sometimes it'll be there and sometimes it won't be there. And I've tracked through that harness and find GPS is tucked away up underneath the dash, and they're stealing power from that harness, and it won't shift out of park because it doesn't have enough voltage there and current to actually provide this this release so you can actually move from park into reverse neutral drive. So I've had that happen quite a bit on that wire. It's an easy wire for them to tap into, and they don't think it's important, but it will cause it to not be. Yeah.
I've actually had same type of thing, but they tap into the VREF for the guys who have the PTOs and the interface with like LTEC and I don't know what's the other one. I can't think of the other manufacturer. But yeah, same type thing. They'll have like an interface on the back wall of the truck and tap into said circuit, whether it's at the DLC or the customer access wires, and something back feeds or not, they'll have something hooked up to the data link, and then off of that harness they'll have another female port that we can hook our scan tool up to. But it's like sometimes the communication won't go through. Like you'll have you're waiting for it to connect. It's like, what the hell is going on? Like, come on, like what the hell's taking so long?
Yep.
Disconnect
just
this.
unplug them.
Yeah, it'll get you
That's what I do
sometimes.
too. I won't plug them.
Let's see. Let's go.
The police do that sometimes too. They'll have
Yep.
like that same style that you're talking about. Some of them will, some of them won't, and it causes issues with communication. One of them had I just caught one of our guys that put the trackers in the vehicles when we sell them. I just caught one of our guys that had tapped it right into the OBD port, and it was the first one that they did that way. And they used a new guy that came from another place that did upfitting and stuff. And I said, no, you guys can't do this, man. You can't. You got to leave these wires alone completely. This is not okay. And I guess the guy got talked to about it, and he didn't realize that it was that big of a deal on that OBD port to be messing around with that. You got to leave them alone. Don't even mess with them.
What do you mean tracker on the vehicle you're selling?
Like dealerships, aftermarket, or used car lots and stuff like that. Some of like their commercial vehicles or something to that extent, whenever they have a big account, they will outsource, like, okay, you want these trackers put in, we have a company that does that. You want us to have that stuff installed for you when you buy the vehicles. So it was a company that wanted one installed so they could track everything. And we have a company that does everything for us, because we'll do it for commercial companies if they want that stuff installed so they can track where their vehicles are at. If they don't have an aftermarket company to do that, we have access to people that do that for them. It's a service that we offer commercial accounts if they want to be able to track their vehicles at all times while the people are out working. And it was one of the transits that we had set this up for them, and they had come in and they said, why are these like communication lights popping up and all this other stuff? And I look up underneath the dash and I'm looking around everywhere, and I was like, what are these wires that are tapped right in? Yeah, I yanked it out immediately, and I was like, no, this is not okay. And then like all these modules came back online and passed, and I was like, you guys can't do this, man.
No, this is not okay.
Easy way out.
Yeah. A couple of guys here up top are asking how the pedal monster is. We are firm and comfortable at City 8. Still have tread on the tires. I think I am at 18. 18.3. So I'm not really complaining. It's fun. I put it on track 5. I went with my coworker, and it's stupid. Like, it's no joke, stupid. Haven't towed anything. I don't know
Oh, she's fine.
if you guys
She's
have towed
fine.
anything using yours.
No.
Question: any good way to secure the driver's door key lock from break-in? I have Zeekster heard of people taking the passenger side handle cover and putting that on the driver's side, if that's what you're talking about. So there's actually no hole. That's pretty much all I know for that. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody actually, or in person. I haven't seen it. Worth pulling. This gentleman, Dylan, asked, he's got a 6.2 that he needs engine replaced, and it's at the shop, and he's wondering if they're going to pull the cap. And I responded to him. I said, for a 6.2, that whole front clip is going to come off, and you'd have that out lickety split. Worth pulling the front clip over the cab all day. I'm looking for the easiest way. I mostly do heavy work. Haven't done a 6.2.
Why
If you're doing a
are they
6.7,
the 6.2?
huh?
Why are they doing the 6.2?
I don't know. I don't know what was wrong with it. He
All I
just said
gotta
it's in the
say
shop.
is good luck getting a 6.2 from Ford. Unless it's a natural gas engine, because they're on intergalactic back order right now.
Yeah, don't know.
If we can find out what the reason is.
6.2s are pretty stout, man. Like,
He's listening, so we'll
I mean, I see a lot of guys, a lot of independent guys reach out to me on the channel, and they reach out to, I'm sure they reach out to you too for advice and stuff like that, especially if they're not familiar with them. And the biggest problem that we have with 6.2s at my dealership, and we have a lot of commercial companies that come to us with 6.2s, they love them.
he says he's got
And
a new engine
They don't
already
change the oil. Oh,
from Ford.
well, a lot of them don't change the oil enough, and what'll end up happening is they end up losing oil pressure. There's like internal failure and stuff, and you can test down by like the oil filter housing where the adapter and stuff is. There's a port down there you can plug into to test for oil pressure, and a lot of them will come in and they're laboring bad, and they're knocking, making a lot of engine noise, and they'll have like 15, 16 pounds of oil pressure, and it doesn't ever get any higher. They're at that point, they're done. But some of them come in, they're knocking and they're tapping, and it sounds like it's internal engine failure. And a lot of guys will replace the engine and they'll reuse the old intake manifold instead of getting a new intake manifold. Anytime that you replace an engine like that, if there's any question at all whether or not it's been hard internal failure, you always replace the intake manifold.
Always.
A lot of guys will put the same intake manifold on, and then they'll contact me and they're like, dude, I just replaced this engine and it's still knocking. Like, what do I do? I'm like,
IMRC.
did you go watch my video in the IMRC? That IMRC will start malfunctioning in that intake manifold, and it'll make a knocking sound. It'll sound like it's internal engine failure when all it is a $600-700 manifold, if you can even get it, because we're having a problem getting manifolds for these things. And they're like, oh, you just saved my butt, dude. I just bought the manifold and put it on, and that fixed the problem. Well, you replace the engine for an intake manifold issue, and I understand it happens, but that's an expensive mistake without doing the proper diag. And then we have valve spring problems as well. Like, we have one in the shop right now for cylinder 4 misfire, and it's not even making a knocking sound. It's literally just a cylinder 4 misfire, and there's no tap, there's no knock, there's no chattering going on. And the semi-skilled tech that was working on it, he moved coils, he moved plugs and stuff, nothing changed, it didn't follow. And I said, pull the passenger side valve cover and look at the number 4 spring. They pull the valve cover up and the spring's cracked, just laying down in there. So sometimes guys do this stuff, but they don't know the nuances behind what we see all the time. And I try to help them out, because a lot of engines are replaced for the wrong reasons.
That was even I think I had when we active command it, shut that thing off, and
Yeah.
nothing.
And it stops. Yep.
He said it had
20
a rod knock, but
Yeah.
Well, I've had a lot of them replace the engines because they think it's a rod knock, because sometimes that IMRC can sound more than just a tap. It could be so faulty that it almost
It
sounds
makes
like,
bad noises.
Mhm.
Man,
and they'll
Here's
think
a
it's
good-
a-
Ford Boss had a good video of it, and I was in the comment section at that point.
The
Oh, yeah.
F-150s did the same thing too. My buddy's
Yep.
18 F-150 did it.
I had an 18, I had a 20 do it, a 17. Yeah, IMRC. I remember when the 20 model came out, it had like 2,000 miles on it. And one of the techs that had retired, he already knew what to go for. And he was like, why does this sound like there's some kind of IMRC issue going on here? Like we've seen this before. He pulled the intake manifold off and the baffle was blown out in the diaphragm that pulls the IMRC runner back and forth. And then when he pulls vacuum on it, it would not hold vacuum at all. So they had
Dude.
to actually.
dude says he's actually watched your video and he commanded it with no change.
Okay.
Well,
Then-
yeah. Sound
Okay.
like an engine. I mean,
if it's an engine, you gotta have tons of metal and oil. If you rod knocking.
Depending on how long it's been going on and how long they've been changing the oil with it going on, if they didn't catch it right away, most of it may have been cleaned out. But you're right. Ideally, you would probably see something.
It'll come back.
At least metallic looking.
Something. But if it's been changed enough after it started and somebody's trying to think, hey, maybe if I just change the oil a bunch of times, I can get this to kind of come back a little bit. You may have washed most of it out of there if somebody wasn't paying attention. It just all depends on how the vehicle's used and who's maintaining it.
he says very impressed with the Ford engine packing. No damage like you have been having issues with.
Oh my God. Oh
Wow.
my God. They show up trashed.
They do show up pretty bad. Let me go back up to this commenter here before I forget. He says he's got, oh, hold on, one more. Nope. Yo, T-Bone, 2015 F350 steering wheel will not return to the center after turning, even after changed the steering gearbox. It doesn't happen every time. I would highly recommend checking your axle shaft U-joints. FBM, what were we just talking about? What were we literally just talking about, dude?
That and make sure that the sector shaft or the intermediate shaft U joints aren't all bound up. Sometimes they're so bound up that you can try to return it and it almost fights you. And those U joints in the sector shaft, or what some people might call like intermediate shaft, that go from the steering wheel down to the gearbox. I've seen them lock up so bad that the steering wheel doesn't even really want to move or return, like you said. And then me and Aaron were just actually talking about this scenario where another tech had diagnosed it, and another tech, he got so backed up that he couldn't do the work, and it got passed off to me. And I'm not really a yes man. I want to know why, who diagged it. I want to look at it now, even if I have to eat my own time. And sure enough, I did get it up in the air. I was telling Aaron, because I lean on Aaron for a lot of things that I either want him to say, you know what, it doesn't sound like you're right on that, or maybe you could do this, because talking to these guys helps me either confirm I'm on the right track or I'm way off and I'm just looking at something wrong. Maybe I'm having a bad day. And the tie rod assembly was shot on it. The drag link upper tie rod was shot on it. So that stuff did need to be replaced no matter what. But when I was going to leave the parking lot after replacing all that stuff and setting the toe and kind of clear view to the best of my ability on the rack, I noticed that when I was turning out of the parking lot, the steering wheel started doing this, like it was like wiggle, 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 wiggle. So it was kind of doing it on its own. And I'm like, what the hell is this? This is weird. And I get it around the block a few times. I take it back. I look at my adjustments and stuff again. I'm like, my toe's a little bit off still. I'm going to put it on the alignment rack. I realigned it again. And I'm looking back at it again. It's still, everything's tight. I can't figure out what's going on. And the diesel tech came over there and said, let me try something real quick. And he locked in the driver's side hub and he went to go turn the wheel with the hub locked in. And he said, and as soon as he went to turn it, it went, and he said, that U joint in that driver's side is dry or it's no good. And it's trying to bind up on you. So I sprayed the boots a little bit just to see if I can get it to clear up some. And I shot some grease in it. The noise stopped, but it's still leaving the parking lot, coming out of a turn. It's not returning properly, and it's wiggle, 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 wiggle. So And I'm like, this is freaking weird. Why is this thing just shaking back and forth like this on its own? And I go around the vehicle and I'm looking at everything and I look at the passenger side hub and I'm like, why is that freaking hub locked in? What? That hub is locked in right now. So I reached down there and I tried to do it with my hand, but it was kind of seized up. I grabbed a pair of channel locks and I grabbed that manual hub lock and I flipped it to the release position, went back on a test drive. Now all of a sudden the steering wheel's returning fine, no more shimmying and shaking back and forth. And it was just a deviance between one side and the other. If you have one U-joint that's bound up or one hub that's locked in or malfunctioning, you could get all kinds of weird issues like that.
Just takes them one little cap, little tiny caps. Telltale is when you see rust. And you look at them caps all around, it's all rusted. That sucker's dry. Sucker's dry and got no lube. And I had somebody comment earlier, out of all these things with the trucks, why in the hell do we not have Zerk fittings everywhere else? Look at DS Trucks 450. That thing's got 11. Why do we just have 2? I remember going with my old man. We were going to get a grease job and oil change. Nobody gets a grease job anymore. You just go get an oil change. What happened to our grease points? I don't know.
Maybe it's a selling point. Hey, less maintenance. You don't have to grease it.
No. For people who take care of their vehicles, it's like
There's a
It's-
cost. There's a cost in adding grease fittings to a component.
I'll
And
pay
when
for it.
When you build, yeah, but when you're trying to build a product to a price point, you know, that if they think they can cut away, maybe it's 2 cents per unit, maybe it's 4, maybe it's half a cent, but at the end of a production run, that's millions and millions of dollars off that one little piece that they omitted. We've seen it in the aftermarket for 20 years. They've been taking away grease fittings, taking
Yeah.
away.
I've been seeing it in every industry, actually. A lot of outdoor equipment, their selling point is, hey, you don't have to grease this equipment.
Yeah.
Greased
The
for life.
lawnmower I just bought 6 months ago with this thing. I'm looking at this Murray and I'm like, what the hell is the selling point? You don't ever have to change the oil. And I'm like, what do you mean don't have to change the oil
Yeah,
on
they
this
took the
lawnmower?
oil in from life.
And I was talking to a guy that works on small equipment and he was like,
Get out.
the reason it's like that is because the way that piston is machined, they machine it to where a certain amount of oil can actually escape past that. And all you have to do is keep topping it off. So it's burning oil purposely. So all you have to do is keep topping it off. And it's
Wow.
I'm gonna ask my sister
No
about that.
shit.
She's like in charge of like a lawnmower repair place for like Sears and stuff. I'm gonna ask
That's
her about that.
crazy.
Well, another thing too is for a homeowner, you can buy a mower and you can use it for its entire life, and technically never put the hours on that motor that somebody that used that piece of equipment every single day. Because I usually just run the like a homeowner push mower. I'll just run into a blow up. Maybe I'll change the oil if it starts smoking, and I'll just change the oil because it's not that big a deal. Just get a whole nother mower.
And my
Yeah.
Honda Weed Whip has maintenance points on it. Like you go through the manual, it says grease here, grease here, grease here. And it's a brand new Weed Whip.
One spot where they can't get rid of the grease fittings, front half shafts. They always have a grease fitting there. And I think that throws people off because there's no grease fittings, but there's that one, or there's 2, one on each side. People, it gets overlooked because there's no other grease fitting.
Clapped out F350. What do you guys know about clapped out vehicles? We see a lot of them come in. There's nothing we can really do but maybe cringe or perhaps wish in this particular instance we're not going to be smelling this throw up or
God.
putrid calcium chloride stained pleather.
I mean, some would consider my truck clapped out, so
No, that's not. That's not.
Your truck was
Whatsoever.
nowhere near clapped out.
Yeah, not even.
I
close.
mean, some people would consider it clapped.
No, not even. Well, I actually like your truck a lot.
So what's the threshold for clapped out? Could, like drywall screws, tape.
Yeah,
No, I will
let's
give you.
let's define
At what point do we
this.
reach this definition? Yeah.
So here's the title: clapped out, and everything underneath follows. So you got to have a couple of dents. That's
Well, check.
that's a given. That's a given.
You
gotta
gotta
have
have
bald ass tires.
Nope, I got good tires.
you gotta have wires ran all over the place that aren't even connected and just laying there where like 6,000 things were hooked up at one time and you just went through
I
and
got a
said,
good one for you.
that ain't working, that ain't working, that ain't working, that ain't working. Just leave that shit laying all over the place.
Kind of
See, I-
like this Ford Boss. So here's a truck that comes in, right? Oh man, he's got some cool LEDs, right? Okay. All right, well, check this out. Let me just hook it up with my speaker wire through the door jamb.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little bit
Cliff.
clapped out.
Read Cliff's comment.
Don't you love it when they hook a stereo system up straight to the battery and then run it through
It's
the door jam?
semi-clapped.
God.
It's
I had one.
semi-clapped.
I had one like that, Anthony, where it was like the guy came in this platinum F-350 and he was a government official. He didn't want to say where or what he did. He just said, I need my radio working. And I'm going through this thing and I'm looking at everything. And I'm like, what the hell, man? I don't see anything wrong. And then I open the hood and I look up under the hood
Big
and
red cable.
I see this like 1980s speaker wire, like the old clear stuff, the big
Yeah.
thick stuff
Oh, yeah.
that he's split. And he's got running down to one LED in the passenger side wheel well, and then it runs up and goes across the plastic cowl, and then drops down to the other LED in the driver's side wheel well, and then it's along the frame, and it's just hanging out underneath the vehicle, flopping in the wind, and it's going to these other LEDs, and then he's got it hooked in. I'm like, why are you using speaker wire to hook up LEDs for one? And you ran it right across the base of the antenna. So every time this truck starts and these LEDs turn on and they're glowing,
What the fuck?
the radio cuts out because of the interference with the antenna signal and stuff like that. I had to like literally cut the speaker wire out of his truck, pull it completely out of the way, and then the radio was working completely fine.
I had a Fusion. They put a stereo system in it. Obviously, the stuff's in the trunk. They had the big red cable hooked straight to the battery, ran along the driver's side, through the door jamb, inside on the weather seal, and then all the way to the back of the trunk.
Dang. No fuse.
Jeez
No
Louise.
fuse, huh?
Wires diffused, duh.
Yeah.
They didn't even have a fuse in it. I would have been surprised. Like, at least they put a fuse, but they didn't put a fuse in it. Like, they're just trying to electrocute yourself or set your car on fire, one or the other.
The clapped out F-350 that I recently worked on. I mean, I went out to the lot and I'm looking at this F-350 and I'm like, damn, that's a nice truck. And I get closer to it and I'm like, okay, is this a 30-footer? Because I'm starting to see this shit doesn't look that nice, actually. And I get closer to it and I'm like, oh, wow, the grill's not put in right. And I'm looking around the back of it and it's like this expensive hard shell tonneau cover that they put on it. The molding and stuff's all ripped and curled up and stuff on it. And I open the door. And as I open the door, the inside of the door starts flopping back and forth on the thing where nobody put the door back and it's about to fall off the damn thing. And I'm looking at the seats and the seats are all ripped and there's mud and dirt and stuff all over the place. And like the intrusion sensor and stuff's hanging down from the center. And they've had like some kind of looked like a display face hanging out where all the wires were still there, but the display was ripped out. And I'm looking at the center console all busted up and stuff. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is like,
Christ.
this is an expensive ass truck and like somebody's trashed this thing. And I open the hood and I'm looking at the hood for this coolant leak. And I see where somebody's taken wads of dum-dum and tried to take the overflow coolant hose and dum it back to the heater core supply line. And it's a gob. Looks like the biggest, fattest bubble gum that you just spit out of your mouth. And
Chewing gum?
it's what it looked like, but it was black dum-dum, like the sticky stuff, the Do you know what that is?
No, I
Like
never heard of
sealant.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, you are a dum dum.
They're strips
they-
of, it's a strip of
It's like
sealant
putty.
that's like a putty tar type substance, and you can pull these strips off and you can use it to like stick things to areas or quieten down. Like if you're getting a rattle from somewhere and you want to shove a little bit of this behind an area to tighten it up or take up for some tolerance, and it can be used appropriately if you use it correctly. It's the sticky stuff that goes around that plastic inside the door whenever they stick that dust plastic inside your door.
Oh,
Flex
That-
seal.
Yeah. So they use this to try to create this seal of this broken nipple, and they just spewed coolant all over the engine bay. And I'm looking down in the engine bay and I'm like, why is none of the wires, the harness or anything put back where it belongs inside this thing? It looks like the cab was off on this, and whoever had the cab off just decided to not put anything back where it goes. So as I'm working on this thing, I'm rerouting connectors and unplugging things and putting everything back, because like, I don't know if it's ADHD or what it is. It was starting to really, really bother me on how whoever worked on it before just didn't give a crap about whatever they did. And I replaced the hoses and everything, and I go to get out of the vehicle, and I'm looking at the tires on this thing, and it is literally the worst tires that I've ever seen in my life. It's like a BF Goodrich radial TAs, and I don't know if it doesn't even look like tires that belong on a Super Duty, especially a dually. And these tires, they looked super soft. They didn't look like they were made for work at all. And I always have a problem with these types of tires on these trucks. Guys are complaining, why are they all chopped up all the time? Why are they wearing so bad? For one, it's because you don't rotate your tires like you're supposed to. And number two, you've got the wrong tires on a truck that you're using as a construction truck, and you're loading it down all the time. And you're using the softest off-road tire or whatever that you possibly can in an application that is probably not meant to be used for, or you're overusing it. And the tread on this looked like some tread were max tread and others were almost wore out, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, all around this thing. And it looked like the worst sawtooth pattern I've ever seen in my entire life. And I get this thing filled up, get all the coolant hose, the lines and stuff put back on it. And I go to take off, and I'm like, surprisingly, with as heavy as this truck is and as nice as the Super Duties actually ride, it was able to take up for a lot of that noise and harshness that was coming from those tires. And it was just a little bit of noise. It actually rode really, really well. And when I went to go take off, I was like, wow, this thing got a ton of power too. And it doesn't feel like they abused it in that aspect, but the rest of the truck was just completely freaking gone, man. I wouldn't have give you, I mean, it was just clapped the hell out. I'm like, such a nice truck for somebody to trash like that. I would be livid if I was a business owner and seen my guys treating my vehicle like that.
I'm surprised they didn't crack an egg in the radiator to fix the leak. Remember the old school trick?
Sometimes you wonder. Brake clean mafia. 430 gears.
Oh God, here we go.
Yes. Brake interlock, brake caliper tool, recalls. I've been doing a lot of them. I want you guys to get your VIN checked. We have capabilities of doing that. If you want to put it in the comments, we can see if you have recalls. It is
ESP.
for
Speaking of
the
recalls, A-Rod,
yo.
I got one today for a 450. It was something about an insulator can hang down and hit the drive shaft.
Oh
Are you
yes.
familiar with?
Oh yes.
Okay. I wasn't familiar with that one. They handed it to me today. So,
Oh yes.
okay.
That one, he's talking about the under vehicle heat
Yeah.
shield, body
Yeah.
heat shield, I guess.
Yeah. Insulator heat shield. Yeah.
I can't remember the number on that.
It's I had it earlier. I don't remember it now.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about though. I've
Yeah.
done them.
How about this
Man.
new TSB 22-23-56?
Look at Hammer Down. He's got us up on the big old screen. Dang. That's way cool.
The problem
Bunch of-
that I have with those that recall, Anthony, it's a recall, right? Or a
Yes.
safety campaign, is whenever we get the parts in, the rivets and stuff, and the silicone that they want you to use, or the adhesive they want you to use to seal after you put the holes in appropriately and refasten this thing up, is the washers that you get with it. If your parts department has a supply of these washers that you're supposed to use whenever you go to stick the rivet through the washer and then silicone the back side of it, as you refasten this up to the bottom of the vehicle, some of the washers, there's deviants in them. And you'll find they'll get like a bulk shipment of, this type of washer, and they're all the same. And when you pull the washers out and you actually look at them, some of them are like this, some of them are like this, some of them are paper thin. So you have to try to get the thinnest ones out of the bunch that you can get, because when you go to refasten that shielding back up underneath there, you don't have enough rivet to actually go through some of those thicker washers, and you'll sit there and hate yourself. You'll do the same one over and over and over again. Like, am I not pushing hard enough? And you're like trying to grind it into the bottom of the truck as you're trying to refasten this thing. And I'm like, why didn't we just get a stronger type of epoxy, clean up the backing of the area, and then refasten it that way to the bottom of the vehicle instead of using these washers? Because they almost seem like it's a great fix. It's a strong fix, but it could have been done so much better than that.
It's like
One
they
guy
grabbed a
came-
handful of washers and threw them in the bag.
Mhm.
Like, just
One guy came in and said, you know what? Now that I'm understanding more about what you're going to do to my truck, I don't want you to touch my truck with that recall. Do everything else, but do not do that recall. I'm going to authorize you to not do that to my truck. I don't want you to do that to my truck. I don't want you drilling into the bottom of my truck at all. What I'll do is when I get home, I'll get a really strong epoxy that is rated for stuff like this, and I'll pull the shield down in the corners, and I'll re-urethane or epoxy them myself and scuff up where they're going. And I'll put
TA31.
something.
So let me ask you this.
TA31.
What is this heat shield? Like, what does it actually do?
It's more than one purpose. It's not only is it a heat shield to stop the heat from the bottom of, or from the exhaust and stuff from
In the cab and all that.
basically keeping the heat away from the bottom of the cab. It's also a little bit of sound deadening to it as well. You can see it's kind of thick. It's got like a material on the back of it as well, almost like a sound deadening material. Also on the higher trim levels, or whatever package it may be, or depending on the plant that it came from, you may see that some trucks have it in certain areas and some don't. Some you only put one
Is it
rivet in.
gasoline and diesel?
Huh?
Gasoline and diesel.
Yeah, it's on the F-150s as well.
So some trucks don't have any, or some trucks have less, or what?
Some trucks won't have the shield underneath it, so they want you to inspect. You'll get under there and you'll look, and you're like, no, this doesn't fit this application, so you close it out.
I mean,
Other
it's
truck-
big. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably like 18 inches long and
So
12 inches wide.
the issue is it falls down and touches the drive shaft, and it scores.
Hits the drive shaft.
It'll score the drive shaft. They're worried about it making the drive shaft weak, but that's not the only thing, though. I think if you find the recall and you read through it, they're also worried about it rubbing the top of like the evap lines and stuff as well.
hmm
That's what it said in the letter that they gave me. It'll rub the drive shaft, and then it's the evap lines.
No big deal to do. You didn't have to
So-
take the drive shaft out or anything if you're just doing the drill and
Dude, nah,
with
I'm
the
a
sealant.
TA30. I'm gonna TA31 that. I resealed my
So-
toilet with TA31, buddy.
hell yeah, that's what's up, dude.
Excuse my
I
ignorance.
changed the
but
wax ringer and sealed it with the TA31.
How does this thing cause the drive shaft to break? Is it because it like rubs it and where it puts a weak point on it, or how does it break?
No.
It doesn't cause it to break.
What does it actually do to the drive shaft?
Yeah,
Scores
it.
well, the thing is, they're worried about it possibly causing enough wear for something to happen to the drive shaft. We catch it in enough time where
I've
it's basically,
seen one where it's cut through it
yeah.
on an
So
aluminum drive shaft.
the shielding will fall down, and it's made of like is it aluminum? The heat shielding, is it made of aluminum? or
Yeah,
what is it made
it's
of?
like
Yeah.
a aluminum coating.
And it'll come down, and as the drive shaft is rotating, it'll polish that area, and it'll keep polishing it and cutting into it slowly until it starts to thin it out. And there's a measurement that they want you They want you to get like they want you to measure the part of the polish that it's been rubbing on the drive shaft, and if it's so thick and below, they will allow you to just refasten and you don't have to do anything else. But if it starts to go outside that measurement, they have a minimum and a maximum allowance. If it goes past that maximum allowance, they want you to submit photos and stuff, and then they
Yep.
have to send you the appropriate drive shaft, and
Yep.
SSSC's involved.
Do you have to do it with SSSC?
I hate dealing with
Dude,
them.
for you guys that don't know what we're talking about, so hold on. Special Service Support. Yeah, Special Service Support Center. Is that right?
You gotta take
Special
pictures
Service
and all this.
Support Center.
Yeah. It's something that we have to, as service advisors, technicians, for certain repairs, we have to get authorization from this particular group that requests pictures at times, more documentation supporting what the vehicle is here for. And I'll give you a scenario. If a truck comes in and I have to do a recall to it, but this, let's say, is on a bucket truck, and I have to take something off the bucket truck that's not Ford to get to this warranty recall part. Well, I have to get authorization from this department for extra time, because the recall only pays you this time. You are only getting paid this time, no more, no less. Well, now I'm in a different circumstance. So when these arise, Rich, Bearded Ford Tech, we have to submit to this department, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt, the hoops and stuff you got to go through, and then they'll come back and retract saying they want different pictures, or
Put your part numbers in there. Put
Yeah.
your labor time in there. You know.
it's just a pain in the butt sometimes.
Now, I'll play a little devil's advocate here. I don't like dealing with them, but they have looked out for the customer on a couple occasions for me,
Oh yeah.
and they've come through. And so we're just saying it becomes annoying and frustrating dealing with them, but there is a reason for them. And Ford obviously sees the need for it, and I see the need for it in some cases. I was doing that Fusion brake flush, Anthony. You know what I'm talking about, Aaron?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, CP? You know what I'm talking about, where we go through and we flush out all the .3 and we do the ABS module check and put the new cap and stuff on it. Well, if a customer's calipers haven't been touched in forever and they're all seized up, and you go to, as soon as you put your line wrench on to crack that bleeder loose and it just falls apart, what are you going to do? You
Sometimes
just
they'll do a Goodwill.
Yeah, a Goodwill, or
Yeah.
you just
P18
you broke that caliper bleeder, even though it probably was going to break anyway. You're the one that put your tool on it and broke it doing this safety recall. And nobody in my shop had tried this before. And I said, you know what? I don't want to send this out the door, even though I know these were going to break anyway. I want to contact SSSC, and I want to put this recall in there. And I want to say, in reference to this VIN number that this recall is under, I broke the bleeder screws trying to do this recall. I'm requesting 2 brand new calipers and this much labor time to the exact amount of what it was going to cost. And then the service writer will actually break down the dollar amount of what it's going to cost for it. And 45 minutes later, I had an approval back that said, go ahead and order the calipers. It was due to the recall. Take care of the customer and your labor time is paid. And the customer got 2 brand new calipers, you know, fluid and stuff like that. And I wasn't shorted on my time.
all parties were happy.
Yes.
I've had them before where they're just out of warranty and Ford will actually Goodwill it just to help the customer out.
Mhm.
They will take care of you. They will.
But there's a
So,
lot of frustration involved when we deal with them. Sometimes it's not 45 minutes later. Sometimes we won't get a response until the next day, depending on what's going on. You know? So it's very frustrating for us, because now we have to hold your vehicle, or whatever the situation may be. We're waiting to make you happy because of something that happened, and we don't want to be the bad guy in that instant.
And now we got a
It's-
vehicle torn apart in our bay that can't move.
It's, you know, the customer whether it's 336 or they have 60,000 miles on it and have premium care, they have only one thing. Dude, here it is right here, man. Here's my keys. My truck is fucked up. It's under warranty. Call me when it's done.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't give two rats patoot what's wrong with it. All they know is it's under warranty and they're not paying. That's fine. You may have $100 deductible. That's fine. The customer knows it's going to be under warranty.
Until you go under part coverage and find out that the part's not covered.
That could be. That could be. And that would be a real arrow into their hot air balloon. However, for it to be warranty, whether bumper to bumper, no big deal. You get into powertrain, no big deal. You get outside of powertrain and now you're using the customer's ESP, there are things that we have to do that is just a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
When it's under a different type of warranty. If it's bumper to bumper, you follow a pinpoint test and it says, follow the guided routine to replace the BCM, you replace the BCM, and that's it. It's under warranty. Do that same repair. Now it's covered under the customer's ESP. It's still under warranty. There's so much more legwork that we as a technician, the service advisor, the parts, like all of these teams have to come together to get all this information so that we can plead our case to Ford on behalf of the customer.
Right.
Parts, the pricing, the labor, all your ducks in a row. And it has to, I mean, I'm trying to give you the best analogy. You're like going before somebody with all this information, and it could be somebody on the other end who has absolutely no idea what is actually wrong with the vehicle or what this component is or where it is on the vehicle. They could probably got a database. I'm just hypothesizing because I don't know, but some of the retorques we get back on the response, it's like, huh?
Yeah.
What?
What's
It's
your
just-
procedure for warranting batteries under powertrain?
F336, baby. That's it.
But then you got to
have
put it
to-
on the charger and test it and all that crap.
Like, is
Mhm.
it like the 4 or 5 hour trickle charge? Then you've got to print
Mhm.
out. Okay.
You know, I figured out how to trick that charger. Hey, Rod.
No, no.
I'm not
Don't-
saying anything.
don't
I'm not
tell
saying
them.
it.
You know,
Um,
you know what a lot of people need to understand also about what Aaron just said with ESP is when we're dealing with 336, when we're dealing with 560, when we're dealing with 880 emission stuff, those things we have the capability of going right into the manufacturer's database and following what they want us to do to get them covered under their provisions. And they normally don't push us back on that as long as we're doing our job. Once it goes outside of that to ESP, a lot of you need to understand that that's no longer the same guidelines. Just like you said, we're dealing with other people now. This is a third-party source. This is not directly with Ford anymore. We've already had this issue with our new HB 3940 labor law in the state of Illinois, and I didn't really know this until 3 or 4 months ago when we were trying to get certain things covered under ESP because it was an ESP premium care, and I figured, well, that's Ford. It's not Ford. What they pushed back and said is, well, we don't have to adhere to the same standards the manufacturer does. We're ESP. We're a third-party company handling that for them. So we'll pay you all data time, but we're not paying you at 1.5 times the labor rate because we don't have to adhere to the labor standard times that Ford is paying for you to do that job. So figure out, this is where, in my state, where it becomes tricky. Now go back to the drawing board and don't use SLTS times to charge us. You're going to have to go to all data now, and you're going to have to tell us all data time. I didn't realize that the same principles don't apply until about 4 months ago. That's what Aaron's saying kind of drew everything together for me. That's why it's so much more difficult because we're not working directly with Ford anymore. When
Let me ask
ESP,
you this.
ahead.
It sounds like you guys' tone kind of changed a little. on that warranty. I know like a year ago, it's kind of like, make sure you get that premium care. How do you
Yeah.
feel about it now? You feel like,
The premium care is the best, honestly, the best warranty that I've used, where as long as I'm doing my job, it's going to be taken care of. As long
Absolutely.
as long as I'm doing my job to make sure the vehicle's within the provisions of what that premium care allows, and I'm running the
Covered
part
part.
numbers, covered parts, and doing my job, I love it, man. That's never going to change in my eyes.
Hey, hold
Everybody
on,
has
just to interject, just to put a little a footnote into what Ford Boss just said. And there is a limit for
Yeah.
each ESP line. So if that repair, that window regulator, and our labor is over that specified amount for that dealer, guess what?
Prior
Gotta get it
approval.
called in, prior approval, even more hoops. And now the customer this whole time, so yeah, my truck's up at the dealer.
They
I'm
got to
getting some
understand
warranty
too.
work done.
What
I
they
ain't
got to
gonna pay
understand
shit.
is when they're out of the 560 and they go with like an aftermarket warranty company, there's many of them out there. Make sure you read that fine print. They'll tell you, oh yeah, it covers everything under the sun. I had a Ford Fusion in there, with the coolant intrusion issue. Obviously, it was out of warranty.
Right.
I think she had like 120 or 160,000 miles on it. They called the aftermarket company. Obviously, it needed a short block or long block, one or the other. And they didn't. Yeah, they denied it because Ford knows about this issue. Let Ford take care of it. I'm like, it's out of warranty. Ford ain't going to do anything
Wow.
about it. Like, so this person is left with a Fusion that needs an engine. So
You're right. I take that back. You're right. It could have been both because it was the 1.5 and the 2.0. It could have been either one.
right. I think
And-
it was a long block on this one.
Yeah. The 1.6 and the 2.0 are long blocks, and the 1.5 is the short block.
Short block.
Yeah, I've had the same thing happen with the aftermarket warranty company. It's the same exact thing. And they come back and they're like, I'm like, hey, there's a technical service bulletin on this. I can support everything I'm saying. And they're like, it doesn't
No,
matter.
they already know about it. Let them take care of it. Yeah.
This is not covered. So either they can plead with CRC and try to get some
Mhm.
assistance on it, or we're not covering this.
So guys, if you get these aftermarket warranties, read the fine print. Just because the salesperson or the person selling you the warranty tells you it covers everything, don't take their word for it. Read it.
Yeah,
Before you sign anything.
100%. Premium care is the top one,
Yes.
Yeah.
the best one. Base care, extra care, easy care, aka sleazy care. Those are the ones.
well, one of the things, even
You
with
might
the
as well not
premium
buy it.
care, even with the premium care, there's fine print you got to read.
All of them you got to read the fine print.
I didn't know that if you letter your vehicle, they could deny claims just because you put lettering on the vehicle.
Commercial.
Yeah, it's severe
Mhm.
duty or severe service.
Yeah.
I knew
I
somebody
didn't
was
know
going to
that.
do it.
They
Hello,
told me.
I'm calling
And I'm
about your
asking
car's
the
extended
claim,
warranty.
trying to tell me-
Leave
tell
it
me-
to Brandon.
telling me it's
Hey, that makes sense.
And I told him, I was like, well, I don't want it. I lettered the vehicle. He goes, well, I can sell you a better one, or it'll still cover you. It's like the commercial version.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what about the one I already got and it's not the commercial one? Well, there's nothing we can do for that one.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. It's like,
Yeah.
point.
You're right.
There's-
You're absolutely right on that. It will come down to if somebody's doing enough investigation, if they ask for pictures, if an adjuster, even with aftermarket companies, if an adjuster has to come out, or like a guy coming out taking photos and stuff. And when you bought that Super Duty, it was set up as a regular personal vehicle, and they come out and they're taking pictures and stuff of it, and they see your logo and stuff on the side, and they see how the warranty claim was set up, or your warranty was set up. They're like,
Yeah.
nah.
Well, we can see it in PTS too, where it'll say like warranty start date and all that stuff, and it'll tell you sold as a commercial vehicle, yes or no.
Yeah.
I don't know if if they update it like they're supposed to, but
But
that's
your bumper-to-bumper warranty for a commercial vehicle is still there. Right?
If you did what?
the
If
bumper to
it's a
bumper.
commercial vehicle, do you still get bumper-to-bumper?
Every vehicle's got bumper to bumper.
But
Like
where-
medium duty is a little different. Their bumper to bumpers 2 years unlimited, but their powertrain's 2 years 250.
Hmm.
10,000.
10,000 what?
Hours.
Or 10,000 hours. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things for the ESP as well, a lot of times I have seen it, it doesn't happen all the time, but the repair order, when you get your vehicle written up, the repair order name has to match what?
The
Rich?
owner's name.
That has to match the name that's actually on the warranty.
The ESP contract. It'll say,
Yeah.
100,000 miles, 8 years.
Yeah.
$0 deductible, and it'll say somebody's name. Well, that name better match what's on the repair order name,
Mhm.
because when these things get put together and submitted to Ford for payment, kickback. And it may
It-
not necessarily be they're coming after you. That's going to be a repair the dealer's going to have to eat. Ford's not paying for the warranty repair. The technician will still get paid, but it's something they're like, well, we fucked up.
I had that
Have to.
happen. I had
Yeah.
a lady went through a divorce and she ended up with one of her husband's trucks.
Mhm.
And shortly after she ended up with it and they went through the divorce and stuff, the rear end was howling on this thing, needed to be rebuilt. The carrier bearings was gone, the pinion bearing was gone. And we had laid out this estimate and stuff. And she was assuming that it was covered under warranty. Well, she owns the truck now. Her name was on the repair order, not her husband. So whenever the warranty went, we tried to put the warranty through, the names didn't match. And they said no, it's not I guess he got his
Let me
in the
ask you
long
this.
run.
So the warranty stays with the owner, the original owner.
Yeah, the owner, the person that bought the vehicle was titled in and the warranty was set up in their name. Somebody else like that buys the vehicle from them in the future, or a spouse or something like that. If the dealership doesn't write that ticket up under the warranty contract owner's name, and let's just say it was Michelle Johnson, but she was dating a guy at the time that was Richard
Mike Smith,
Henderson or
yeah.
something, Mike Smith. She can't use that warranty.
Wow. So when you
It's not-
sell a vehicle, say you drive it for a year, you sell it, is it still under factory warranty?
Factory warranty, yes.
Yes.
As long as it's 336.
Okay, 336, yes, but not aftermarket?
No.
Or ESP?
It's got to match the owner of the vehicle. It has to match. It basically tells us owner's name must match like vehicle or whatever.
Yep. So a couple of things I want to say right here. M. Lesnar, that's funny. You can transfer that warranty if you say you buy a used vehicle and that vehicle still has premium care on it. Both the seller and buyer can go to the dealer. You pay the fee. This gentleman said about 125 bucks, and you can get that transferred. If it's a couple more years, well, get your money's worth out of it. I mean, we could be happy. Yeah. Kurt, one of my customers is got a 21,350 DRW and is asking how much does a premium plan cost. I'm trying to decide if it's worth it. It is 100% worth it. I would check around. Every dealer sells premium cares at different rates. And there is one in Minnesota called Anderson Cook. Anderson Cook, K-O-C-H. Anderson Cook. And apparently they buy so many of these ESP plans from Ford that Ford sells them to them at a discounted rate, which they in turn can pass that on to the consumer. So my coworker, he did one for 8 years, 150,000 on his wife's 50 F-150. A couple days went by. He did it. It was like a calculator on you plug in your vehicle information in miles and years, and they'll spit out like a little quote. But you'll have to call and talk to somebody. But we let a couple days go by. and we checked Oasis, which is the database that we have all of the information and everything on the vehicle, and boom, right there. So the customer's name, 8-year, 150,000 mile, $100 deductible,
Must match.
must match. So definitely a must. The only thing I kick myself in the ass for, go to buy my truck, like, I don't need tire and wheel care, I'll get it later. You have to get tire and wheel care at point of sale. You
Road hazard.
cannot get it added on afterwards. So kind of woulda, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but now I know. If
I
you,
wonder if I got that. I can't remember. I need to.
I don't know.
One more
Uh-huh.
thing that a lot of people forget about. When you go buy a vehicle, if you're not buying the manufacturer's extended warranty or the premium care or something like that through Ford, and you go through one of the other house brands, you buy the vehicle now, everything's fine. 2 weeks later, something happens. Like Anthony said, read the fine print. A lot of times you cannot use that warranty for the first 30 days of owning that vehicle. You must be
Mhm.
31 days or plus on the other side of that before you can claim anything, because they want to make sure, for one, the dealer didn't sell something that was faulty and then somebody's claiming something right away, and you yourself are driving the vehicle, experiencing this, and like a week later you're not abusing the warranty right away, or 3 weeks later you're not abusing the warranty right away. They want to know that it's been 30 plus days before you can use certain warranties.
And that
There's
keeps
so
people
many
from hey, my vehicle's already messed up. Let me buy an extended warranty right now and go get it in the shop so I don't have to pay to get it fixed.
Yeah.
That's the reason they do that.
There's so many rules and regulations and things that we have to, and it's always changing. Warranty policy manual for 2022 was a little bit different than the one for 2021. New part coverages, new stipulations for prior approval, and digital imaging, and I mean, the list just goes on. And here you guys are bringing your vehicle in for a warranty repair and not really knowing what's going on behind the scenes. There's a lot going on behind the scenes just with paperwork and submitting stuff through Ford. But the thing that all of us here have in mindset when these vehicles come in is your concern. The paperwork is usually always at the end, and the repair is always first and foremost when we get that vehicle into our bay, at least for us. So the paperwork, when you get a couple of jobs done and then you got some paperwork to do, it might be an hour or something depending on your story. And
Yeah.
the thing is, when we're writing the story, when we're typing all this up, we're almost doing the repair again in our head.
Mhm.
It's like, stop talking to me, stop, hold on, what did I do? You know, just doing the whole thing again. And if you're doing an engine, or for instance, like that manifold job you guys saw me doing the shorts with that 6.8 manifold job. That was a long ass story, man.
Yeah, you can't just say replace manifold.
No.
You got to
It's-
everything that you did step by step.
hmm
And
Yep.
next question is, do you have enough lines to write it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Depends on how much I'm trying to get paid.
Hey, I go back up there and tell the service writer, hey, I need you to write like line 3 continued to line 4 or something like that. And then he's like, dude, you need a third line? I'm like, dude, I'm trying to get paid. I'm trying to make sure this is documented. I'm trying to make sure
Right.
that this is not
For real.
I'm not trying to get charged back for this. I want to put every freaking thing that I did in there. And if I need 3 lines, guess what? I need 3 lines.
And there has been many a times where repairs like this, like we're talking about, has jogged our memory. And we're like, what did we do? Where was that wire? What circuit?
That's when
Did
you just
I
like type
repair?
it out on Notepad and leave it on the computer and then copy and paste.
Yeah.
If
I've
it's
had
the
to
same
go-
repair.
I've had to go look at my old stories, help jog my memory. Like, oh man, I think I did this before, and not, have the repairs like on the tip of my tongue. What I do? Oh yeah, I keep a logbook. keep a logbook, every RL, everything done, and I write little things that'll jog my memory about that particular vehicle if it was something stupid.
I had a really good experience recently, Aaron, and I felt like it was good. It's good to mention this because some of my subscribers called the company up and said, "Hey, this guy on YouTube that we follow, his name is Ford Boss. He had mentioned that you guys really took care of him. It was a aftermarket warranty company that had covered this gentleman 62,000 miles on his 2016 Escape, and he had complained about trying to leave his park or his driveway, which is a little bit of an incline." And he said, I left the house, I went to go up the incline, all of a sudden the vehicle revved up and I had nothing, no gear, no nothing. It started to roll back on me a little bit. I hit the brake and I kind of let it roll back down the driveway into the carport, and I called the tow truck, and the tow truck came and brought it to you. And that's where we're at now. Is I feel like something's wrong with my transmission. And when I pulled the fluid sample, I have a cup, big giant, like a 2 or 3 cup Tupperware container with a screw on lid. And I let a lot of the fluid drain into that, and some metal particles and stuff came out with it, pretty big pieces. And I saved it and I sealed the lid, and I immediately wrote where I was at with this. I warmed the vehicle up. I verified the customer's concern. It was hesitation. It had a hesitation on moving. Felt like it was in and out of gear. It barely wanted to move on its own power. Then I see the PTU's leaking. So I got a second container for the PTU. I pulled the plug out of the bottom of it. I drained the fluid inside the container, and I had seen almost 3/4 of an inch of extension on the drain plug of material that was coming out of the PTU. It was like a big giant booger had built up on the end of it. But it was just full of like metal pieces and looked like some kind of rubbery clutch material on it. And I left that right down inside the fluid as well. And the oil pan was leaking all the way around. So when the guy came out to do the inspection, he was like, "Oh, wow, you've got pinpoint tests here. You've got your story and everything wrote out. You've given me fluid samples. I can see the metal in the fluids and stuff. You have done an outstanding job, dude. You've supplied me with everything that I've needed, the entire story. I've got the visual here, so now I can send pictures and stuff on the metal and the fluid. Everything's categorized." He was there for 15 minutes. Had enough documentations and pictures and everything, because I did my job as a tech to make sure I got as much possible for the customer to make sure they were taken care of. He went back and submitted everything. By mid next day, I had a new remanufactured transmission approved through Ford. I had a brand new PTU approved through Ford, oil pan reseal approved through this company. And the company's name is Endurance. And because I had such a positive experience with them, I had mentioned their name in the video and said, "Thank you for you guys taking care of the customer and hearing me out and taking all my words and stuff down. And you guys really helped me out in this aspect, take care of the customer." Well, there was like 6 or 7 people that called them up and bought aftermarket warranties with them. And the last 2 guys had mentioned my name in the video, and they actually gave them a little bit of a discount for mentioning my name and buying the aftermarket warranty through them. And a lot of people had popped up and said, they're actually a really, really good warranty company. I haven't seen anything bad about them. So I wanted to just kind of throw their name out there a little bit. If you're not interested in premium care or something like that, maybe they're worth a shot looking into, because they seem like a really good company.
Hell yeah. What do we got to do to get it covered and get it getting paid? Thanks, iDash. I'll have to read that later. Good question. Good question. DS is over here fighting. He's fighting them heavy eyelids.
He's hanging
He's going to change his name to Hopscotch. He's hanging in. Krautzer's 4 a.m. rolling, and DS is snoring. Yeah. Yeah, the warranty stuff, it is what it is. There's nothing we're going to do about it. But you just got to have fun with it and deal with it with the Brake Clean Mafia. That's what it's about.
I got an upper oil pan to do on a 17 Illuma duty.
No big deal.
ESP approved it. They had messaged back and asked why this was their thing. They messaged back and said, can you explain why you guys are trying to get the ESP approval on the upper oil pan? Does it relate to TSB 22 dash whatever? And we responded back with, yes, this is the TSB that does cover the upper oil pan leak, and these are all the associated parts. And ESP came back immediately and said approved. That's all we wanted to know, is if you're trying to do it per the TSB, we're 100% on board with you guys. Do what you got to do. Approved.
Well,
So it seems that some of it's getting easier as long as you're referencing and doing what you're supposed to do on your end, like a lot of paperwork on our end, a lot of information on our end, that a lot of times that's what gets the approval.
R. Silva, quick last question. What's the difference between a 6.7 cab and chassis and a 6.7 pickup? Exhaust, turbo, EGR, tuning, and I'd say probably that's about it.
Is there
Would
a
you agree?
frame rail spacing difference?
Yes.
One is narrow frame, one is wide frame, narrow frame, so we can add
Different.
whatever box and utility conversions onto the back of this particular setup. Rain Man busting out frame questions. See, he knows what's up. He's
Well, a
coming
lot of
through.
people don't know too, though, is the 350, 450 cabin chassis have a much stiffer rear suspension as well. A 450 pickup truck don't have a true cabin chassis rear spring pack. More similar to a 350 dually than it is to a actual 450.
Don't they
Okay.
also detune the engine's output to like down to like 300 horsepower or so to
The
try
cabin
to get more longevity out of it?
Yeah.
On the cabin chassis, yeah.
They also put cast iron EGRs on them.
That's pretty much it. Ford Boss and I are going to talk via telephone of the Illuma-Duty things that need to happen for that upper oil pan to be successful for him. And we are almost at 75K. All you guys out there, I appreciate you. Been great watching the channel grow. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing some giveaways, some good giveaways you guys are going to want. And I'm saying plural as in more than one. I will be going over how I'm going to do that. I'm still brainstorming with the team here. And I want to thank you guys for coming back tonight. Talking upper oil pans, talking warranty. If you guys are interested in getting your rigs protected with Ford ESP, premium care is the one you're going to want. It's going to make our job that much better, and your headache with any repair that much better, because I would much rather have a $100 deductible than an $8,500 repair. It makes sense to me. All right, guys. Thanks so much, Ford Beard Tech, Ford Boss, DS Trucks, he's woke up, and Rayman CP. We'll
Hey,
catch you
Rod,
guys later.
I'm gonna call you tomorrow about that shutter
Hell
or
yeah.
shimmy, whatever they're talking about.
I got you. Everybody, have a good night. See you.